So, this morning we got to our job site, unloaded the truck and realised the contractor had prepped the equipment, had filled out all the case labels with a whiteboard marker. For those of you who don't work in the production industry, most of what we do depends on impeccable and time-sensitive logistics, and often there aren't really opportunities for clear communications. One of the tools used throughout the industry, basically everywhere, is the case label, which is just basically a washable label which gets filled out with the who, the what, and the where of the contents of that particular case. The importance of filling out these case labels correctly is drummed into everyone, and I've literally pushed gear out of a truck that was being loaded back onto the loading dock because the label was not filled correctly. Anyway, so we got to the job site, we've got 3 rooms to load in, and we've got a pile of gear and all the information has been rubbed off, so we're just guessing where it all goes. This made me quite happy because I had something to get annoyed about that wasn't the fucking coronavirus. Incidentally, the gig was cancelled within an hour of us arriving for load-in. We also put the gear back in the truck and returned to the workshop. So the events industry right now is in a bit of a crisis. Events being cancelled left and right. People seeing their income stream basically just dry up overnight. And the news seems to get worse every day. 2 weeks ago it was a mild concern. A week ago it was a looming threat. And practically over the weekend it seems like everyone's income is on a knife edge. Now, as for me, I still have a job for now. My calendar is moderately full for the next 2 weeks, but it's all very much up in the air. Anything might be cancelled. I've cut my expenses back as far as I possibly can. I've still got a little bit of royalties coming in from Lazy Kiwi merch, but things are extremely uncertain for the next few months, maybe even the rest of the year. Now, before I came to work in the Auckland production industry, I had 8 years experience as a data installer and a network technician, so potentially there may be work for me in other sectors. That said, the economic impact of the coronavirus is likely to impact every industry to some extent. So while they may not be affected as severely, they may also not be too excited to take on new employees at this point. Also, when I reactivate my contacts from my last job hunt, the conversation's gonna have to start with, oh, by the way, I'm a woman now. And that's a really awkward way to start a conversation about potential employment. This is why I'm still talking about gender discrimination in technical industries. It may seem like a bit of a trifling concern when everyone is about to lose their shirts, but people with the most marginal presence in the industry are the most vulnerable in times like these. Things have been improving, but still a good number of people working in any technical industry, more often than not, they're male, they're white, they're cisgender or presenting cis while they're at work, or all of the above. Now, this video was actually meant to be about gendered language and gendered dysphoria, but it has turned into a rant about the coronavirus because that's what's up right now. I shared a picture to my Facebook wall last week which said, bro, dude, guy, and man are not gender neutral words. I've also made a few very angry posts about this subject in the past. This may seem obvious, but a lot of people don't really get it. I can't speak to the experience of other trans people, but I find gender dysphoria really affects my sense of, my internal sense of who I am. Most of the time, like most people, I cannot see my own face. In the part of myself I most perceive as my voice. Developing feminine gender cues in my voice is something I'm trying to work on, things like intonation and cadence, which is part of the reason I'm making these videos. But Auckland DHB does not fund voice therapy, and it's quite expensive to get privately, which makes it basically out of the question right now. I've tried using apps, but they can't sort of provide guidance and coaching, and generally they're in American or British accent, and gender cues don't always map between different accents. So anyway, people are calling me things like bro or man or dude all day, and I'm hearing my not quite feminine enough voice, and I go to the bathroom and notice myself in the mirror and think, whoa, who the fuck is that? It's really quite disorienting, and the people who know me well know there's one thing I do not need to be, and that's more disoriented. This is part of the reason I don't really respond positively when people tell me I shouldn't let words hurt me, or when they tell me they call everyone dude or man or bro or guy. This is not to say I'm completely uninterested in cisgender people's view on gender and language. I've had some interesting, insightful conversations with some of the cisgender women I work with about this. Sometimes they feel that when they're referred to with masculine coded language, that they feel more accepted into the industry they work in, which is predominantly male. And generally, when somebody's happy with the words you're using for them, I'm not going to tell you not to use them. But we all, to some extent, internalize the ideas fed to us by our culture. We can hold prejudice and bias without being consciously aware of them. I know I certainly have. It's something I've had to work on and still had to work on. Yeah, it's important that we all think very carefully about how we view others, and we need to develop a real self-awareness about how we assess the competence of others, whether we're doing it fairly or whether we're making decisions based on our unconscious bias in regards to a person's gender, person's ethnicity, their sexuality, their status as a trans person, or their disability. So I'm going to finish off with one final question. If you use masculine coded language for women in your line of work you consider competent, have you really internalized the idea that in your field women can be competent?